All right, scientists, let's talk about checkpoint 6, which you will be doing today or whenever you're watching this video. Checkpoint 6 will be due by the end of class tomorrow or whenever you're watching this. So, Thursday, the 24th, and you might be watching this video on that day. And this is your first draft of what will be your final cross cutting concept presentation. So we did an oral presentation in waves, and so you have an opportunity to increase that score by doing a second presentation on a cross-cutting concept. I promise you this is a nice easy presentation. I'm going to go over kind of the rubric for it right now and show you how short and simple this is going to be. So, checkpoint 6. Oh, that's the practice one. Okay. Looks like this. The first thing that you're going to see is the kind of discourse rubric. So, the things that you need to make sure that you do as you write what you're presenting in discourse format. Okay. So, the requirements are here. As you can see, I do not want you using cause and effect. And I'm also going to add patterns bullet point 3. Okay. So we are not using cause and effect for this one. Sorry, not sorry. You are going to make sure that you connect to a bullet point of a cross-cutting concept by using language from the bullet point and explaining why that bullet point relates to the real world. You are going to make sure that your idea is unique, so it's not something that we've discussed in class or in labs, and it makes a connection between something maybe that we've learned or done in class in the real world. So you're essentially taking something we've done in the classroom and telling me how you might see that in the real world. That is the goal of this presentation, okay? And then lastly, student clearly shows how the discourse written connects to and explains the topic they choose. So this is just making sure that you're connecting the bullet point and discourse that you chose to the real world, okay? So I gave you a little bit of an outline here. If you change it a little bit or whatever, that's totally fine. You do not need to keep these lines. You can delete as you write and make it look nice and one free flowing paragraph. But here's how I would start. Tell me what cross cutting concept and bullet point you chose. And then I would write out the full bullet point. When you're speaking, you want people to know what you're connecting to. So you're going to say the bullet point out loud. Okay. You're going to explain the phenomena you chose. That would be like a lab that you're relating to, a concept that you're relating to. So maybe an example is the phenomena I chose is solutes and boiling points, or blow it up with butane, or bottle rockets. It can be anything we've done this year, a lab, or just an idea or concept that we have learned about. Okay. Then you're going to explain how that thing relates to the bullet point you picked. And then you're going to explain how that idea connects to the real world. All right. So let me give you an example. So my example might be I'm going to use scale, proportion, and quantity. I'm going to use bullet point 3. Actually, I'm going to use bullet point 4, which says proportional relationships can provide information about phenomena. By using proportions, scientists can learn about the properties of materials involved and about the process involved in phenomena. Okay. I'm going to really throw back here, and I'm going to choose our bottle rockets and creating our bottle rockets and the research that we did. And so I'm relating that to the bullet point because we learned about the proportional relationship between force, mass, and acceleration, and how important that was in building our rocket, right? We had to make sure that we were getting enough force and that our rocket was heavy enough that it wasn't going to topple or move weird through the air. However, it had to be light enough that the force was going to be enough to accelerate it and get it up in the sky and get it to go high, right? And I know I'm kind of summarizing here, so you might write this a lot more eloquently than me. I didn't write all this down, I'm kind of freestyling. And then my last thing would be this connects to the real world because when they design rockets to go to space, when they design airplanes, they have to think about those same things of how much mass do we have here and how much force do we need to accelerate that plane or that rocket, the amount that we would need. And so we're looking at also a proportional relationship between our model with the rockets and in the real world, how that proportion kind of plays out when we're able to give more force and have more mass. So that would be an example of maybe like what this presentation would sound like. Okay. There, I picked a bullet point. I clearly related something that we've done in class to that bullet point and explained it. And then I made a connection to the real world from that bullet point and what we did in class. All right. So that is checkpoint 6. You are going to submit this when you're done so that you can get feedback from me. For my section 2 and 3, if you're in class and I'm in class, you can get feedback from me right away. For section 4 and 5, since I will be out of the building and coaching, I will not be able to give you feedback right away. So we will give feedback in class tomorrow. Okay. The other thing I just want to point out is if you get feedback from me, and even if you don't, and you get through that presentation and you feel good about it, you could start to practice with a peer. Have a peer or a partner read through your presentation and give you feedback on those things that I just talked about. You can kind of do this checkpoint 7 here and get feedback there. And then you can also revise and start practicing your oral presentation. And now realize for the oral presentation, you're probably not going to be able to do all these things. So what you might want to start with is starting to memorize your presentation, going through it and kind of saying it to yourself, maybe writing it down a few times, making a script, whatever that might look like. You can start to practice and memorize your presentation when you are done with checkpoint 6 and you have that turned in. So I will have checkpoint 6 and 7 assigned so that you can work on those things when I am not here.